Yeah, so I'll start with Kajula because he was not out there, and he is undergoing more opinions just because he's not responding to, you know, recovering as what was the most hopeful case. So he is still looking at um, different opinions on the issue. Middlestead is gone through rehab skates. He'll rejoin us in practice tomorrow. Um, he will have a yellow jersey on, so non-contact will give him time to get into that. As far as what he was dealing with, it was much less an injury and definitely not a re-injury of what happened. He went, as I think I mentioned last time, he was going to go see the surgeon because he was having, obviously coming off of the surgery, issues in the area of the surgery. It had nothing to do with directly related to the surgery. The surgery's fine, but it was muscles around it. It was some fluid because of the intensity. When we ratcheted up to him to a higher tempo, the body responded differently, which is natural according to the doctors. So he's got to go through and resolve that. He's been skating much better, he felt. Obviously, I talked to him today before we skated. He went through the rehab skate today and is cleared to join us back tomorrow. So what that means from there, we'll take it day to day and see how he responds each day. But I will say with him, having gone through this, he's a guy that his personal standard he couldn't meet when he came back a week ago. So we're gonna make sure that I guess proceed with a little more caution. Not that we weren't caution prior, but we want him, and I want him specifically to be able to perform at his standard. We had him in before, and it was an unknown. He thought he could push it. When he did, the body responded that way. So we're going to make sure he has a little bit more practice time in that regard. Hinostroza was out in the skate. He was in a yellow jersey. Obviously, he didn't finish the skate, so he wasn't comfortable finishing it. We'll get a report tomorrow to see how he feels, and we won't have any information until we hear tomorrow how he responded to that. Jankowski left early, but that was a skate repair. I don't know if you guys saw that. His boot, literally plastic on his toe, broke. And then UPL, I just chatted with him on the ice, and he felt really good. So that's good news as far as how, when the medical team talks to him, I'll have a follow-up on that later. But he seemed to go through practice without any problems. So Zemgus is, Paul, I don't have the detail on it. He will not join us this week in practice or the next few days. But I would expect him probably by the end of the week or early next week, we could probably have a date on him, is what I'm thinking based on the report I got. So this week is more going to be a little bit more rehab, that they should get him to the point where he'd be integrated with us by early next week.
With UPLs, is it practice time that he needs? And when he is cleared for games, do you plan on carrying 3 goalies just for the fact that you don't want to lose anybody at waivers?
Yeah, that is yet to be determined as far as how we'll go about it, because of all the the injuries and roster spots, and those things will all come into play. Obviously, right now with the players we have out, we do have roster spots. I'm not sure of exact numbers, but we potentially could carry 3, but that decision doesn't have to be made yet. And when it has to be made, we'll take the information at that moment and make a decision.
I know you're not a big fan of all these medical updates, but
what's the opposite of a big fan? Can you give me a term for that, Mike? Because so, anyways.
You feel a little better. I mean, there was probably a lot of concern about Middlestead. I mean, he had surgery and he wasn't able to play. I mean, am I correct?
Yeah, I was nervous. Middlestead, and every case of these injuries, at some point, the player knows what's inside his body. You're cleared from the medical side, and they can run through all the tests, and they pass, and then the player has to. The player's the only one that knows how to play in the NHL and at that pace, and what he has to do. And in this case with Middlestead, he cleared all the tests and he wanted to go and pushed it, and he pushed it so hard he caused a little fluid buildup and some muscle responses around the injured area, and now he's dealing with that. He's dealing with that recovery. But it's interesting. It's you have to, as you get to know the players, you get to know the personalities, and there's always that window of every guy coming off an injury. Vinny Hinostroza, you have to go try it. You have to go see if you can play at that pace with respect to the recovery component of it. And it's tricky with all the injuries where the guys are off the ice for such a long time. And then they reintegrate, but they're out with the medical team training with no contact and no, guys around them, chaos around them. So when they get into that, it's a whole nother level of seeing, how they feel for them. And then the physicality, and then you got the game is the next one. So there are some levels in between that kind of handoff from the doctors to the player to actually being able to go full go. And like I said, it's, all these guys are hockey players. They're all hopeful, and they all push it. They want to be back sooner than later.
As far as Jeff goes, you've kind of boiled down Jeff's resurgence to he's put the work in, and you guys believed in him and kept him in a good spot, lineup-wise. Is it that simple? Is there more to it? Is it that I guess I'm missing?
With Skinner, you're talking about, right? Jeff is, I haven't called him Jeff all year, but so I just want to clarify. First names are tricky around here. So Skinny is, I guess what I keep thinking about Bill is before he even started scoring, before we saw a resurgence of him, I spoke a lot to our group here about how he's doing the right things. He came in the season with a really, I guess, beyond hopeful, more confident that, okay, I'm going to resolve this. I want to be back to a go-to guy. I want to be a go-to guy. And as a coach now, I'm watching that. And I want to invest in the player too. As a coach, you invest in the player. You give him ice time, and you tell 15 other guys every time you make a line change, you're saying, well, you 15 wait here, and you can go out. And so you're making an investment in a player as a coach. Should I put him out? And he was fully engaged in trying to become better and resolve any challenge that I put in front of him. So I'm watching him every day, and I'm challenging him every day. And I liked the way he was responding to what I was asking of him each and every day. So I just kept giving him more and more, and he continues to be able to handle more and more. And it helps that he's developed chemistry with Thompson. He had chemistry with Middlestead, and I think those are two centermen there that really, when you put guys on their wing, they develop chemistry quick. And Jeff has such a high. Everybody knows him as a scorer, but he's an intelligent person, an intelligent hockey player. So he's a guy that's a chemistry guy. And I've watched that as a coach, and I thought, I need to help him find chemistry if there's something we can do from the coaching side. And him and Thompson have been great. And now that Skinny has some confidence, he's actually good with anybody. He's found his game a little bit more, and he's been effective everywhere.
What will it do for Dolly that he was able to sit on the bench in a game that had sit in a locker room with him? I mean, they're from the same country. He's one of the best defensemen in the world. What's that going to do for him just to be able to interact with him?
Yeah, I think, yet to be seen, Paul, but I got to think it's going to help him immensely. His self-image, it's got to go to another level when you're hanging around with that company. And you realize you belong with that company. And I talked to him even after we skated today. We talked about the All-Star game, and that was one thing I mentioned to him. You realize you belong in that group. You are an All-Star. And he smiled, of course. And, he talked that Bergeron and Larkin were his, 3-on-3 line mates. And, I've had Larkin on various teams, and we had some good conversation there. And he said Larkin was real good to him as a person, which is exactly Larkin's reputation. But it is good for Dolls to be around that other players that he competes with that take runs at him every night, and feel that that's a different peer group that he's in as well.
Don, you said that he belongs in that group. When did you know that Rasmus Dahlin did belong as an All-Star?
Probably when he elevated his competitive grit, physicality, and determination on the defensive side of the game, where he just doesn't like to lose. It just bothers him. As I mentioned, I'll get text messages after a game where he plays poorly. I don't get text messages from him when he plays good and has 3 points. I get him when he plays below his standard. And when I see a player like that, it's more than hating to lose for him. It's loving of winning, because everybody hates to lose. Everybody in the world hates to lose. But it's your love of winning that makes you stay out on that ice longer in practice. It makes you come to the rink. Somebody that hates losing just can go home, I hate losing. And they throw a water bottle and smash a stick, and it looks like well, great, you hate losing. But they leave the rink and they don't think about it anymore. And the guys that love the game can't sleep at night when they don't succeed, and he's one of them. And so when you see that in a guy that has that much talent, yes, that's when I knew he's in that category. And I've had plenty of others in the league, whether it was Quinn Hughes or Werenski or McAvoy, all stars or Calder candidates, all defensemen, and trust me, Dawes is in that category. So.
Is there one area in Dylan Cozens' game of growth that stands out from October to now?
Yeah, Dylan is, he played a lot of one-on-one hockey, which is, very common. Players coming out of, into the NHL. They got to the NHL because they were skilled and they could just beat a guy one-on-one. And Dylan is using the entire rink. He's using, he shows defensemen now that he will use that guy over there, and he will potentially use that guy over there, and it just backs the defenseman off enough that his acceleration, his change of speed, he's added a lot more deception in his game using, his peripherals rather than just attacking one-on-one. And when he uses the peripheral players, it stunts a defenseman. Then his one-on-one skill is shines now. But when you just direct attack, so he's really added that to his game. He's added, he's got way more on his scope when he carries a puck now, and it backs people off.
Don, from a broad perspective, at the beginning of the season, you talked about wanting to continually see competing and improvement just every month to month for these guys. But now as you enter the second half of the season, does that change at all, considering you've got guys now that have got that experience under you now? Or did you guys focus on that? Do you guys focus on more on like next year? I mean, maybe not next year, but just you preparing for next year?
Yeah, I mean, you're always preparing for ahead. You're always. So whether that's next year, tomorrow, or 2 weeks from now, as a coach, you're always thinking, you have to keep getting better, and you have to keep those things in mind. For us, I feel lately we haven't played with enough passion, and I don't question our players' passion. I think we've played with, I keep saying it, it's a broken record. You come in front of you guys every day, you can't reinvent the wheel every day. There's a little bit too much fear in our game. I think when we play, we fear, okay, we might lose, or we might lose a battle. We don't play well. For us moving forward, I just want to see us play with more and more passion. I think we're a much more difficult team to play, and we have much more success when we just don't worry about anything and go. And the wear and tear of a season, when you accumulate losses, and we've had lots of injuries and not much continuity from line to line because of injuries or goalies or defensive partners, and that's a lot of wear and tear on any team. At a level like this, and I hope we can get through that, fight through that, and just play with passion. And I think our guys, I think the break was good for our guys in that, maybe a reset for us in that regard. But that's what I would look forward. When I look forward, that's what I look forward to most, because I think that's the best way to develop players.
You talk about all those things, especially the injuries and things like that. Does having such a young roster, is that part of the problem, at least in terms of like mentally getting past some of these things that they've had to, the hurdles they've had to jump?
Yeah, I mean, there is challenges with younger players, but I don't feel any younger player has inhibited us from progress or growth. I think, it's actually every bit as challenging with older players. They've had more, any older player in this league has had probably, if you think of just Stanley Cup winning, less success than more success. They just have. It's just a fact. And so you're dealing with accumulation of not success more with older players. So it's a different thing all around. So I don't think it's an older thing or younger thing issue. I think both have pros and cons to both, and you just have to work with it in any outset or any aspect, I guess.
Is it going to be more difficult going out of the All-Star break into what was supposed to be the Olympic break? You guys aren't going to have a lot of games to kind of regroup here.
Yeah, that'll yet to be seen. But again, I do. If we can free our mind a little bit and play. I don't want to say almost borderline reckless. Like just go, just play with intensity and passion, and not any fear and hesitation. I think we're. It's what I've said from the outset of taking this job. We need to do. But yeah, I mean the schedule is a little bit like last year. We're going to play a lot of games every other night. Very condensed schedule of games. But I'm excited for that personally. I think our players are excited for that. And the challenges are the challenges. I mean, if you have more injuries and something like that, it's tougher. But I do. I like a lot about our guys. There's a lot to like about our guys, and we just want them to, to go as hard as they can go.